Hello everyone, how are you today? Happy Tuesday. Yes, Tuesday is such great. It's the 1st of March. 1st of March? It is the 1st of March, isn't it? I had to do a quick take there, a quick think about that. So yeah, it's March, it's my birthday month, so I'm super excited for this month today. It's going to be amazing. Oh, I can't wait. I don't know what I'm doing for my birthday yet, but it's my birthday month, and today we have on episode 4 of the Soul Truth Show, conversation show, with the most amazing, hey Shannon, how are you? With the most amazing Melonie, who I am going to bring on any second now. So let me just approve. We're going to bring Melonie on. Send the invitation. So yeah, we're going to call Melonie in. I will introduce her as soon as she comes on. So if you're catching us now live, please come on and say hello. Shannon's in the UK. Hi Shannon. Hey Melonie. How are you? I'm good, thank you. Thank you so much for joining us. Today's gonna be a good day. I can feel it already. So yeah, let me just take a moment. So Shannon, I'm very well, thank you. Shannon's obviously coming to the UK. We're gonna have to catch up, Shannon. Yeah, today, episode 4 with the beautiful Melonie. I would love to talk today with Melonie all around the divine feminine and the masculine energies, which she's an absolute pro at. I've been with Melonie in the online space for a little while, and she is now my one-on-one coach, so we're working together as well. So let me just step back for a second and explain why I've brought this show together. Basically, I love having conversations with other like-minded women. So it really helps to expand me, it helps to activate me, and I thought if I enjoy this, then surely other women are going to enjoy conversations the same. And so I'm pulling together, like, you know, as many spiritual light workers, coaches, healers, all the different modalities that we hold together as women to just burst out and stand in this truth, whatever truth means for us, in all these different modalities, to show that we are unique, we are all individual, but we are all of us, you know, we're all made of the same stuff, we're all of as worthy and of value and all that kind of stuff. So just to see how different we can be, but what the difference is when we're standing our truth, standing for who we are in our authentic identity. And that's what I really help women to do, is empower them in those modalities, but having these great conversations with nothing on the back end of it, no sales on the back of it, no, there is nothing to get from this but just pure expansion, activation, juiciness, connection, togetherness, and all those beautiful things. So today we have Melonie Kolton on, and so Melonie, I'd love for you to just take a moment and just introduce yourself and tell us what you're all about.
Thank you. Well, thank you so much for being here. I love the idea of all of this. I love the vision. I love the energy. I'm Melonie Kolton. I am a spiritual expansion and integration coach. So I really help women kind of like connect back into their inner flame and learn to embody their spiritual gifts, to really create that life of purpose, of passion, of fulfillment, so that they can receive, you know, their hearts and their souls truest and, you know, best gifts, desires, the love, the money, the wealth, the pleasure, all of that juiciness with such ease that it, you know, they're constantly living in a state of overflow.
I love that. And yeah, we do, like, you know, we're very different, but we stand for the same sort of message as hey Maria, thank you so much for joining us. You know, I'm always about the inside out. My life never used to be that. It used to be the outside in. And it's funny, I've been having a couple of conversations recently over, you know, in the last 24 hours, of women in my inbox that are saying, you know, I have the money, I have the relationship, I have this, but why don't I feel wealthy? Why don't I feel fulfilled? Why do I not feel satisfied? And you and I are both all about, like, the internal game. So what I would love to know, Melonie, is, like, we know where you're at today. We know that you're like this beautiful spiritual energy, and I love what you do with women, is to really help them step into that, expand that, but like you say, lead them this life of purpose. You bring up this word that is really standing out for me today with you, is purpose. What was life like for you before? Like, just tell us a little bit about your backstory when you weren't stood in your truth, where you weren't connected to spirit, and where maybe you weren't living a life that's of purposeful, you know, on purpose. And then we could flip over into where you're at today and just really show women what it is like to be in your truth versus what it isn't, and how different that looks. And maybe you can tell us the little journey in between, the journey in between, the biggest piece.
Compact it as much as possible. Because anybody that's been through a spiritual awakening, anybody that's dove into, you know, their spiritual growth knows that it is many, many loops and many, many turns and many, many crossroads. It's not the straight and narrow path that's very simple by any means. So I'll compact it as much as possible. I first off and foremost, I think I differ from a lot of people, and then again, not so much, that I've never not been spiritual. I've always been aware of my gifts. I've always had like my spirit guides, the sense of spirit, the sense of source, as like friends in my back pocket. And because there was a lot of physical isolation in my world growing up, the awareness and the connection to the unknown was something that I fed constantly. However, you know, getting into the teen years and, you know, getting the boyfriends and all of that fun stuff, right? The loss of self-identity was really kind of like that shift for me of not being in the best relationship. When I was about 18 years old, I started dating somebody who seemed to be the best thing ever, that had come and like saved me from, you know, this life of, you know, whatever happened, like childhood traumas and all of these things. And somebody who finally saw me, somebody who was finally, you know, hearing me and, you know, just wanted to, you know, bless me with all of these good times, trips, fancy gifts, all of these things. And it just felt good to finally be seen and to be heard. To essentially, it ended up being a mentally, a physically, emotionally abusive relationship, and a really toxic cycle that I was in for about 5 years. I ended up kind of like breaking away from him. I went on a trip. I went on a trip for a few days without him, up a local mountain, Whistler. I'm in beautiful British Columbia. Everybody, worldwide, world-renowned Whistler. And I went up there for a trip, and I actually got offered a job while I was up there. And I was like, I'm going to take it. So I moved up to Whistler on a whim, on the back end of a weekend trip getaway, knowing that I didn't have anything really to truly come back home to. I had no connection to myself. I had no direction really going on in my life. And I really didn't even know who I was anymore. And the community space that I met up in Whistler was very just like walls down. There was this complete welcoming of just be who you are, and we see you as you are. And it was just like, oh my God, these are my people. Like, this is my place. Like, this is my magical place. I don't ever want to leave. Well, I ended up actually getting pregnant after being up there for, I think, just under a year. And then so I moved back down to the city and started life as a mom. I met my husband, whatever, our relationship kind of started. We got married, we had another child, all of that beautiful goodness stuff. But our relationship was very, again, a little toxic codependency, where there was still a lot of unhealed trauma on my end and a lot of unhealed trauma on his end as well. And so we just kind of became like those dumping grounds for one another of that, you know, lower vibrational negative emotion. Because we felt comfortable and because we felt vulnerable with them, we felt that it was okay to really be that way. And we created this whole toxic cycle again within our marriage. And what ended up happening is, when shortly after my daughter was born, I decided to jump into a business, creative flow, feminine energy, right? And I began to sew. I taught myself how to sew, and I built up this huge business of creating and designing and selling boutique style custom girls clothing. And it was the best outlet to possibly have, because I got to spend quality time with my daughter. And but I was also, like I said, in just this feminine flow of like creating, and like there was so much pleasure in the fabrics and the textiles and the visuals and the patterns, and then seeing all the pictures of the other little girls like inside the clothing. Like it was like, oh, this feels good. And I haven't felt like there's been a purpose within me for a really long time. And so through trauma response that I'm aware of now, right? I put all of my energy into my business, because it was in my business that I felt free. I felt like myself. I felt like there was this essence of being seen, that my soul craved. Like my soul craved, my ego craved it too, right? And that again created this disconnect in my marriage with my husband. And he ended up having an affair about 7 years into our marriage. And you know what, the moment that I had found out, it was the biggest blessing for myself. And I say that with no angst or animosity or anything geared towards him. It was like spirit came down, the channel that had been like all clouded over for so long just like opened and parted like the Red Sea. And it was this remembrance of like, this is your time. Remember who you are. And you know, the first couple of days of like navigating things, it was like I was drawn back into astrology and like getting into what's going on in the cosmos. When he's like coming at me and he's saying like all of these things, like I'm checking his chart and I'm all like, oh, so this is where his response. And it actually really helped me to start to see the shadow aspects of energy. And so I really started to navigate like the conversations of like, if you want to make this marriage work, right? These are the ground rules. But I want you to know that I've reconnected to myself. I feel myself, and I'm going to start building my life for myself, that I don't need you. And again, not in like a fuck you type of way,
Yeah,
but
not in an ego way, just
I want to be with you. I want to love you. I want to share my life with you. I want to desire you, and I want to be desired, and I want to be, you know, I want to be a choice. I don't want to be this. And he agreed to it. There was a lot of back and forth and a lot of pulling, but I really stuck to my boundaries to the point where we almost ended up going through a divorce, because it was just like there is no unwavering here. There is no testing me here. I remember who the fuck I am, and I'm so anchored into it. The biggest storm could not blow me down. And that just kind of like started to to bring people into my energy of like, because you know, the affair was essentially like a very public thing. And then so people seeing, you know, my rebound or people seeing my transformation was just all like, oh, how do you do that?
yeah.
Like, how are you not hurt? Like all of these people that wanted to come and like talk poorly about my husband, of like, oh, he doesn't know what he had, or he's such an idiot, or once a cheater, always a cheater. And it was just all like, you don't know my husband. And this has, yes, having an affair, it's very surface, it's very hurtful, right? Our actions speak to our emotions.
Mm-hmm.
And when we make big reactions, there's something deep going on. There's a deep hurt. And it was just like, it changed the game for me. Like it expanded my heart like so much in love and compassion, that I just like this, I'm like, oh my God, this is it. Like, this is it. This is my purpose. This is what I'm here for. This is what I'm here. Like, I'm here to navigate, you know, these hardships. I'm here to navigate these traumas, to help other women, to assist other women, because I know time and time and time again, right, when we have children, when we get into these relationships, these whirlwind relationships, we lose ourselves. And it's very common for women at that age gap between like 16 to about 25 to get into the whirlwind of life and forget who they are. And it's funny because scientifically, or when we're taught, those are the ages that we are finding ourselves. but we so often find ourselves in the environment that we are in instead of going inwards, which seems to kind of be the new norm of like women when they.
Oh, I think we've just lost Melonie then. She was head deep in our conversation, which was absolutely amazing. So let me just see if Melonie comes back on. So yeah, if you're watching this, please come on and say hello. Let us know what you're thinking so far of the conversation. I think it's so juicy and amazing. So let's just see. Yeah, thank you, Marie. Thank you. We love you too. So hopefully Melonie is going to come and join us back. Because yeah, that was such a great conversation, and I can resonate so much with what Melonie was saying, because I went through something very similar. It wasn't a affair that, you know, kind of woke me up. I actually left the marriage myself, and had 2 young children, left the marriage, and I really then got into my truth to realize that I've been conforming, I've been, you know, settling, I've been you know, just really not standing in my truth and going through those motions of, oh, Melonie says she's here. Let's bring her back on. Send invitation out. Yeah, going through similar things where I was just not in my truth. I just felt like I was conforming, and really not exactly what Melonie was saying between those ages of, you know, the 16, 25 plus. I wanted to fit in. I wanted to not stand out. I didn't want to stand in my truth, so to say, because I didn't know what that was. So I ended up leaving the marriage. So I was just saying, Melonie, I can really resonate with what you're saying.
No, it pissed me off. I'm like, I could continue to see you. So I was just like, okay. I was saying something that Facebook was just not liking.
The truth.
Go figure. Right.
So yeah, I was just saying something very similar, and it was only then, and I was in my 30s then, where I left the marriage that wasn't serving me, that I had that awakening moment. But it was in the low levels, it was in the depression, it was bipolar, it was divorce and wanting to finish. And then I heard these words, you have to help yourself. So that's where I went through the, you know, the awakening, the opening up to who I was. So yeah, you what you were saying was like, from, you know, women from the age of 16 to 25, we think that that's where we're finding ourselves, but actually that's where we're doing everything on the external. This is where the hair has to look right, the clothes have to look right, you know, and we're trying to fit into that society. But it's actually about when we start to go in. So what happened then when you realized and you're starting to go in and you found your purpose? Just carry on through from.
Yeah, so when I found like my purpose, it was like almost like something that was like beautifully instantaneous, of all of this like wisdom, all of this self-awareness, all of this like courage, just kind of like it just became like, it just became me. Like it, you know, it had like had been percolating quietly on a low simmer for a very long time, and then all of a sudden like the heat got cranked and like it just started to boil over, and I was like feeling myself. I'm like, I'm feeling this. I am like loving the way that I feel on the inside. I am loving the relationship that I have with myself. I love the self-indulgence. I love the self-care. I love, you know, the self-love. I'm loving like all of this. And it was like, and give me more, and give me more. And, you know, and then so started diving into, you know, the healing modalities, and, you know, pulling out the cards and making intentional time for that connection to spirit, to, you know, that connection, you know, to source, that connection to myself, really implementing, you know, like the goddess energy, the goddess vibes, the goddess days, you know, being really aware, being present in the moment, whether it was like, you know, from taking a bath to putting on lotion to, you know, tasting some like delicious fresh berries on a summer day. It just became really intentional of enjoying living and being present in the morning, or like being present, you know, in this time. And
Was
you know,
that relationship with yourself, like when you're saying like being intentional, is that having that time and really connecting with who you are from the internal and the external, but it was those two elements that you were bringing together that you were moving through. So I resonate so much. Like, I've come to a place in my life now after sort of 8-9 years where, you know, I said to Simon, if I was no more than the woman I am today, like, I am so happy because I love who I am. I love, like you, the connection on the inside. Sometimes words don't always explain that, like the feeling that you have, and you just love the woman you are. You just, you know, yeah, we just can't always get it through, but it's like you love, you know, everything about your life, the hardships, the struggles, the celebrations, the breakthroughs. It just builds up this essence. So when you're going through, like you say, in the baths, the lotions, the connecting with spirit, this is like the whole complete relationship of yourself physically and spiritually. And that's the moment and the time that you really indulge in that and create that connection. Is that the relationship with yourself that you're talking about?
That is the relationship that with myself is really, I guess, like more so than what I'm doing externally, than creating a stillness to be able to have that conversation, to have that inner dialect with my higher self, with my soul self, and really connecting back into, you know, the inner sanctuary of where my truth resides, and kind of like essentially going to the school, right, and relearning the scripture of who I am, quieting that clutter to hear the soul song. It's less about what I'm doing and more about who I'm being. And as humans, right, we crave tangible. I know that we've had this conversation before, right? But we crave tangible. So we do create these routines that are tangible, like getting into a goddess bath, getting into, you know, putting, you know, lotions on. We create a routine that kind of like creates the space or holds the space for us to go into a deeper level.
Yeah, I love
right.
that.
So it's a time of having that confirmation of like, how am I feeling? Like, what's my next step? Where am I being guided to? Does this feel yes? Does this feel no? Like, I feeling stuck. Like, what's blocking me? What needs to come up? What needs to be released? Is this, you know, how do I heal this? How do I let this go? And really having those, you know, those hard conversations, you know, those radical truths of, you know, integrity and self-honesty that are not always very pleasant.
Yeah.
And really navigating, you know, I like to say, like, for a lot of my years I was circling, you know, the rabbit hole. I was staying on the surface because that's where everybody seemed to be. And when I tapped back into myself, I fell like Alice deep into the rabbit hole. And this is where I live now. I love to explore the many tunnels that, you know, are built deep, you know, below the surface.
Yeah. Oh, so much I can resonate with this. And I guess this is like, for me, what you're speaking, what came through to me then is like, I always say, I almost don't need anything outside of myself for that fulfillment, for the love, for the fun, for you know, the enjoyment, the breakthroughs. Like, you just don't need anything outside of yourself when you can connect back into that truth, into your authentic identity, when you can connect with your, you know, I call it like your truth essence. Like, you have the universe, God, source, spirit, and it's just like, but then there's that ounce that comes into you, like the little extra ingredients to the meal of that sits within you. Like, that, to me, once you have this, you need for nothing outside of yourself. So when you were talking about, do you know what I said to my husband, you know, I really don't need you, that's because we're fulfilled, right? And you found that absolute fulfillment. You found love from within yourself. You started to see yourself, that you didn't have this need to be seen or this need for love. And I say this very often to Simon, like, you know, he knows I do not need him because I went through the journey. I went through that discovery like you, and connected from the inside. And now my world comes from the inside out. But I still don't want to sit on a Saturday night on the sofa on my own and just be with, you know, spirit and what have you. You know, we got this human experience. So I'm like, yes, I still want somebody that's next to me that understands that I love that time and that connection with myself. But I also love to have my feet rubbed with him. I love to go to the movies. We love walking and hiking, and we love those physical human aspects that bring us together. But I'm all about anything outside of ourselves is just an expansion. The relationship is an expansion. The money is an expansion of what's within. And this is why I'm sure you have the same. You know, I've got women in my inbox right now, and we're having I was on a call yesterday with a lady, and it's like, you know, yesterday this lady had so much beauty around her, and she was so beautiful, and she's like, I need to sink more into beauty and more into my feminine. I'm like, have you looked in the mirror, like the feminine energy and the beauty? And I was like, but do you feel beautiful? And there was nothing inside. The beauty wasn't within. So I said, it doesn't matter how many baths you take, how many roses you buy, how many candles you light, and how much beautiful colors you have in your brand. And if you don't feel beautiful, you won't see the beauty. Is that what you experience as well? Like those,
you have right there, you have to integrate, you have to embody, you have to become. It's not, there is no magical checklist, right, to becoming yourself. The outside world very much gets to be our, like, our signs, our guidance, in a way that, you know, is kind of like you're on the right path, or wrong turn, you know, U-turn, kind of go back around, right? But the navigation that we're receiving, the guidance from outside, is all internal. It's all about the feeling. It's all about the connection of how we connect, how we feel, how we embody the lessons and the teachings and the information that we are taking on from the outside. How do we embody it? How do we integrate it? How do we make it our own? How does it feel in our body? How does it sit in our body? And essentially, like, you're going through, like, every little cell that you have, and you're activating it, and you're awakening it, and you're creating these beautiful gardens of, you know, of a high vibrational activation, even through, you know, divine feminine, divine masculine. It's a state of wholeness. It's a state of oneness. It's a state of fulfillment. It's not one, it's not the other. It is both. It is all, right? And of course, we are called to desire those outside connections, because in the big scheme of things, we are all one. We are all interconnected. We all, you know, have, you know, energies that we bounce off of each other to, you know, feed our souls, to feed our journey, to feed our awareness, right? But it's the awareness of the energy in which we communicate, the energy and the frequency of the words. When we speak in the words of, like, I need, right? It doesn't feel good. It just, like, it doesn't feel good in the body to say the word need. And that's because it comes from, you know, that lack. It comes from that scarcity. It comes from, you know, that fight or that survival mode. But when it's like, I desire, you feel that pleasure. And if you're not comfortable with receiving pleasure, you're going to feel a little bit of discomfort. It's going to feel a little like, oh, this is a little weird. Don't really feel this, right? It's not that you're not aligned to it, right? It's just like, or you're not worthy of it. It's just that you need to get comfortable with this frequency embodying your body.
right. Yes. It was yesterday we were on a call, and the lady that I was talking with, the call was all about her. You know, she asked for the call, and we were moving through things, and then every now and again she was flipping the call to, like, come back into me, and she caught it herself. Like, she's done so much work already. She caught it herself, and she's like, I cannot take all this, I can't receive and take all this attention. And, you know, because I was like, you're being seen, you're being heard, like, I'm holding you, we've got you, and we're working through this. So it's all about her. And even that was like this, I can feel it. Like she was saying, it felt really uncomfortable to have eyes on her, to have you know, working through in this space. And yet the one thing she wanted was to be seen. But when she was seen, it was like this feels uncomfortable. And I was like, let's just sit with this for a minute. Let's just be in this moment, and, you know, just feel it, feel the uncomfortableness, and let's just see how we're going to move through this. Like, but you could see her trying to switch it. And, you know, a lot of us aren't used to receiving. Like, the old paradigm in that was to go get, like you say, need is an outside, get energy. Desire is very much, for me, like a lean back and a more open energy. So to receive can feel very vulnerable, because now we're back in this energy rather than this need get energy.
And that's it, right? Because when we're in the need, we're in the get, right? We're in the masculine energy, but we're mostly in a wounded masculine. So we get into the hustle, we get into the go, 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 we get into what comes next, what do I do next, right? It becomes very survival. And when that happens, right, we move really quickly. There's always something, you know, happening. There's always something next. We find ourselves in burnout. We find ourselves like in a disconnect. So we're not really feeling what's going on within us. We're not connected to our emotions. We're not connected to, you know, those nudges. We're not connected to our intuition. We're just all like, I have to move. I have to keep on moving. Like if I stop, the world is going to end. If I stop, I'm going to fall apart. Like drink the coffee, go, 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 go. And if I stop, it will all fall apart. Right. And that's how we have been really conditioned, you know, over the last like 2000, you know, years with the patriarchy and everything like that. And now, right, we are shifting, you know, into this age of Aquarius, into, you know, the awakening of the divine feminine energy. And the divine feminine energy is coming in not because the masculine energy is bad, right? But the feminine energy gets to heal the masculine energy. And when we come from a state of a healed masculine energy, then we have this natural balance for the feminine to flow effortlessly. And this is that veil. This is that gateway to just having this life that brings us joy, that brings us happiness, that brings us freedom, that allows us to feel light, to feel joy in everything that we do. And so being so much in the masculine and then trying to come back into the feminine is going to be discomfort. It's something that we haven't felt before. It's something that's unknown. It's something that's foreign, right? But there is a big difference. And I know that just like sitting here and again, using the word need and feeling that in your body, using the word desire, and how does that feel in your body, right?
Yeah.
And we learn, like, I know for myself, right? I've learned to change the mindset of discomfort. Instead of it feeling scary or being something scary or feeding into the fear of the unknown of what's coming next, I bring in excitement. I bring in joy, because I know that when I get into that uncomfortable, when I start to tap into that unknown, there's something beautiful that is awakening within me. There is something beautiful that is coming through, you know, this dark tunnel that I might feel, like this chaos. I know that there is clarity in the chaos, and I just have to hold the space. I have to just keep on showing up for myself. I have to hold that space, and I have to sit in the discomfort until it becomes comfort to me.
Yeah, I love that. And I can't remember, I was doing a program a while ago, and I was talking to my clients about, you know, if you think, say, like we take Christmas for example, like Christmas Day, I said, could you imagine waking up Christmas Day knowing every present, what everybody had bought you, what wrapping paper it was in, what bows were going to be on it, that one's from that one, that one's from that. I said, where is the surprise, where is the excitement, and, you know, things like that. And oh no, I wouldn't like that. I said, but that's how you're leading your life. You want to know what the present is, you want to know how it's wrapped, what size it is, when it's being delivered. Like, we want to know. Could you imagine going through life like feeling more, you know, embracing the unknown? It's like Christmas now, you're like, woohoo, what's today bring? Like, you're moving through that. But the uncomfortableness is, yeah, life is, you know, healing processes is uncomfortable, but, you know, the world is always through change, and yet we feel change sometimes be so uncomfortable. And I love that when you just really sort of open up and embrace that unknownness, if that's even a word, I might have just created that. Like, it gets to be like Christmas morning, it gets to be magical. Miracles start to come through. So I just got a call come through. You know, the miracles start to show up. And it's very simple. Like this morning, Simon hit that fear. He was in that dark place, 5 o'clock this morning. Like, Claire, are you awake? Like, we're moving through. But as we started, we went out, we walked the dog, and I said to him, you know, this is like everything is an opportunity. So, and he felt the sadness, he felt the anger, he felt the unknown, he felt the insecurities. Everything started to rise up again for him. And I said, but everything has an opportunity. Can we really just look at every opportunity here? And so we just, like you, flip the mindset and flip the perspective to see it from the other side, from the other, you know, from the place of light and all the opportunities. He was like, I've got an opportunity to be grateful. Yeah, I've got an opportunity that we're walking around with the dog right now. I've got an opportunity to see what's coming up. What's the triggers? Why is this coming back? Is this a repeater pattern? Is it this? And I was like, oh my God, the opportunities were just like, this is amazing.
And that's it, right? When you can flip the script and you start to bring that excitement into things, you actually start to have gratitude and appreciation for all of the bumps that you kind of have along the way, because you know that they are helping to feed and elevate you to that next step. They're bringing in the missing piece. They're starting to bring it all together to get you there. These bumps and this turmoil is like, you know, turbulence isn't really happening because you're off track. It's about, can you stand in the wobble? Are you willing to stand in the wobble? How anchored into your truth? How anchored into your purpose? How anchored are you into showing up as you and being you? Are you? Right? Like, my husband and I can now sit and talk about, you know, this affair that happened like over 7 years ago now as a blessing in our relationship, a blessing in our lives. And, you know, we're not taking away from, you know, the pain and the hurt and, you know, the emotions that were felt at this time, right? We are very conscious that we haven't created any limiting beliefs that a struggle has to happen in order to have success, right? But we can look at it of like, oh, that was our pivot, that was our transition, that was our awakening from the universe.
Yeah, that was your gift.
And yeah, like, and it was our gift, and it's just like, and it's beautiful. Like, it's so beautiful.
And in the moment, did you want it to look like that? Did you want to feel that pain? Did you? No, you were like, no, that's not how I want it. But these get to be our gifts. And I always say, like, you don't need to go and find what's coming up. The universe will present it to you, like, on a silver platter. But the universe always knows, doesn't it, like where you want to go. And so it knows the tweaks and the shake-ups. Like, that version of you before that affair would not have been able to hold the desires that you were talking about. Maybe it's like, no, you're going to be doing this, but we're not going to hand it to you because you're not in your truth. You are codependent. You are this, but we know what you want. So we will sort this out, shake this up, not how you want it. But now look at you, now you're prepared, now you can hold it. And we knew you and your husband weren't going anywhere. We knew that. You might not have, but the universe always knows better. And it's like the same with Simon. You know, Simon had his stroke back in September of last year, my fiance, and it was literally like the whole rug was pulled from underneath us. But even so, I'm like, do you know how grateful you are? Like, grateful you are. Like, you've been given the whole opportunity to stop. And obviously it was a brain hemorrhage, so he's had to relearn how to walk, how to balance, how to, some of the speech, you know, was missing, and a few bits like this. I'm like, you get to reinvent yourself. But, you know, you don't have to go to that extreme. But now you're in this position, you may as well use it. You can't go to work, you can't drive, he couldn't cook, he couldn't clean himself. It was just like, you might as well sit back now and go, actually, how do I want to reinvent myself? Because you've been given that opportunity. But like you were saying before, you don't have to have a stroke. You don't have to have the affairs happen. But when these do, when you switch the perspective, I'm like, not jealous at all, but do you know what I mean? It's kind of like, well, you have to do this now. So you do have to reinvent. You do have to use that neuroplasticity in your mind to rebuild.
Yeah. Well, the choice is always there, right? The choice is always there to, you know, to make the switch. It's always there, right? The
Yeah.
choice to choose yourself, the choice to, to choose your truth, choice to get to know your truth. It's always there. What happens is we deny ourselves for so long that the universe ends up interceding to give us that boom in the face. Because I can tell you that since that first smack 7 years ago, I've been very aware of not, of not denying myself in any way.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And, there is no fear. Like I said, there's no fear of needing something bad to happen or something, trauma,
Yeah.
needing to be traumatized in order to overcome something.
Yeah.
Instead, now it's just like I'm openly receiving these lessons, and they've gone from, like this big huge like plane crash, right, to a little bit of turbulence.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
And the turbulence is a ride. It's fun. It shakes up the frequency, it shakes up the energy, and it always ends up the next level once it all calms down.
I love that. Yes. What I would love to ask you, Melonie, is for anybody who's watching, and I'm sure you'll give me golden nuggets as well. First of all, I wanted to ask you the real difference. How do you describe the divine feminine and the divine masculine? But then, since you were talking about the wounded masculine. What does wounded? Is there a wounded feminine energy, and is there a wounded masculine? And then, obviously, I don't know whether you call it pure or whatever you call it, like divine, feminine, and masculine. Like now, I feel like we've got these four like quadrants. How, just to give each one a little bit of, let's just give it a little bit of depth to each one. The people resonate. Oh, this is wounded, because some people, like, I remember saying, I am being authentic, I am stood in my truth, but no, I was stood in my conditioned self. So I was very truthful, I was very authentic, but I was authentic in my conditioned, wounded way. And I know people, can slip up sometimes saying, I'm very authentic, and they don't realize they're authentic but in a wounded position, or they're very authentic in a divine. So how would you describe those?
Okay. So essentially, when we're talking about wounded for either the masculine or the feminine, we'll find ourselves very much responding from a triggered state. So there is, let's see here, how do we put it? It's an ego. It comes from the ego. It's driven by shadow. We are feeling and feeding into less desirable, lower vibrational energies. The response is anger. The response is frustration. The response is lack. So in the masculine energy, we're seeing ourselves overdoing. We're seeing ourselves being overpowering. We're seeing ourselves thinking that we're the only ones who know how to do something, and we have to be the leaders. We have to do the things the way. We pull out our checklist, anal retentive kind of a thing, the hustle, the burnout, and we wear them as badges.
Yes. I'm kind of going, okay, I can resonate. Well, I'm just like, yep. And I can see how that wounding affects me standing in my divine masculine. Now you've said that, and I had the same on this call with this lady yesterday, is when I'm stand up in my truth and open up the light, people may see that as arrogance, may see that as, who does she think she is, who does she, it's from that wounded space, because it's had, we have experienced that. So yeah, love that.
And that's the beauty of, the coaching industry, right? Because we are hopefully from a good place, being trauma informed. I'm saying this very loosely, and I probably shouldn't be saying it really loosely, but we're triggering people, right? Because we are in the healed aspect, or we are in a healing aspect, because we are always healing, we are always growing, we are always learning more about ourselves. And so when we speak in that healed dialect, when we speak in that empowered, embodied way, right, we are kind of like triggering those wounds that are still existent in the people in our community, in the people in our our clients, and those that are close to us, right?
Yeah.
But the healed, like the healed masculine energy is very strong. It's very confident. It's empowered, right? It's a leadership. It's being proactive, but it's also, you know, implementing like the strategy and the plan, but inviting other people in as well, right? Not taking it all on ourselves, honoring when it becomes too much, taking a break, stepping away, whatever it is, right? It's about creating the structure, but creating the boundaries of doing this until it doesn't feel good.
Right.
Not doing this when it doesn't feel good.
Yeah. And I guess that word that you were saying earlier about need, I was thinking like when you're in that wounded masculine, I needed to be seen. I needed to be heard. I needed to prove my worth, that I was good enough, that I was the best. So you had that energy that came, you know, I can see the difference. I can feel the difference in myself. Was, yeah, there was that need to be the best, the need to have the clients, the need to have the money from that wounded masculine way. And yet I am quite masculine, but it is about, okay, let's get this done, let's do this. And I'm on calls like with, you know, my online business manager, and so we're very much in that masculine energy, but it's a very sort of playful masculine energy at the same time. It's like got the heat, it's got the fire, it's like, come on, let's go, go, go. So it's in a, but not from a need. It's almost, I guess, and maybe you can correct me, but what I'm feeling now is that this is where the feminine creativity energy works with the masculine, because now it's a play, go, create, go.
Of it. It's the back and forth and the back and forth that create the whole, right? So when we're going into like the wounded feminine energy, right, this is where we are, you know, kind of like clingy. We are seeking attention. We are seeking validation. We want to know what, you know, what other people are thinking of us. We want to be the people pleaser. We want to be the hero in the story. That is very, like, we're trying to give ourselves purpose. Instead of having purpose, we're trying to give ourselves purpose. That's very much the wounded feminine energy of trying to be the fixer to everything. Okay.
Yeah, what's with me.
Right. And then we're like the divine feminine energy. It's about creative flow. It's about, you know, the leaning back. It's about the receiving. It's about being held. It's about being honored. You know, it's about like the energy that radiates from within you to the outside of you. There is this level of safety, of security, of groundedness, of centeredness, of magnetism, of just, you know, like, oh, I'm so worthy. I've got it. And it doesn't come at the cost of somebody else. We're not seeing other women being successful as competition. We're seeing them as sisters. We're seeing them as community. We have the understanding that there is more than enough. The universe is limitless, and therefore I am able to receive. I am able to have and call in all of my heart's desires.
I love
and
that.
be taken care of by the universe.
Yeah, I always used to feel like, you know, I don't need anybody, I can do this. And I lived a very single feminine life, but I was in a male industry, engineering. I used to renovate houses and I'd be on the tools, and it was like the old, I guess that was also like, you know, the wounding is, you know, I was doing that because I could, but then there was also like this energy behind, like, I don't need anybody type thing. And I found it very hard to allow people in to support me. And to, you know, I always used to say to Simon, no man's ever been able to hold me. Like, and there's times where I really needed Simon. I was like, you can't hold me. And because I didn't know myself what hold me meant. And one day I was in like a bit of a mess, and he said, would you just like me to hold you? And he physically held me. And I was like, oh my God, this is all I ever needed, was to be physically held. Like, I didn't need holding up. I just needed to be held. And I said, you're the first man that I've been able to articulate that to. I don't need a man to hold me up. Sometimes I just need a man to hold me. Not a man, Simon, you know, my partner, my lover, to just sometimes, you know what, I just want you to physically hold me in that moment so that I can allow myself to cry, so that I can feel almost I don't need to stand up. You've got me. So I haven't got to use my body. I haven't got to put the tension behind. I can just relax because I know you've got me. And for me personally, that was what it meant to be held. Up till that stage, no man could keep up with me. Like, I always had this bigger power, and it was very from a wounded space. So it does take quite a lot for, you know, us as we've gone through these woundings to be able to lean back and allow to be supported, and, you know, things like this now. And but when you understand, because to me support before used to mean I was weak, that was the wounding. Now I'm like, I'm in this beautiful place, I get to do what I want, I get supported, I've got a cleaner, I get supported, you know, my kids do stuff, I've got an online business manager that helps me out. And actually I really like that energy to allow myself to be supported. Are you similar? Are you like, you love, you know, you're allowing that support to come in and you can feel that difference?
And that's it, right? So when we are looking at like the concept, like, so the masculine holds the feminine, right? The masculine is the structure, the feminine is the flow, right? If you were just to have water, right, we would have a flood, right?
Mm.
If we were just to have banks, we would have a drought, right? But when we have river banks and a river, we have the perfect union.
Balance.
That
Yeah.
is the masculine, that is the healed, you know, the divine, you know, I don't even know what it is, not synchronicity, but whatever, the union,
Yeah.
you know, of the masculine and the feminine energies. With one, right, without one, right, we have a drought. Without the other, we have a flood. But with, you know, but together, right, we have something beautiful. We have something that flows. We have something that continues, that creates stability, that creates, you know, consistency.
Yes. Do you know what, this is just, you've just made that so simple and it landed so effortlessly with me then, but in such a deep way, because I can see where I've gone from, I was originally the masculine energy and wondered why I ended up soulfully dead and wanting to finish, you know, come off this planet, because there was just no flow, no creativity, no sense of connection. There was nothing there from this masculine. And then I went right over the other side where, oh my gosh, this felt amazing and I'm in my flow and everything's flowing, but nothing was kind of sticking or nothing. It was just like, everything was out open, that then everything got flooded, and it was like, but then you can't kind of not contain, but do you know what I mean? You don't actually hold that in. So the masculine is the holding energy, the feminine is the flow, and that's why you need the two together. And I guess this is why, you know, I know a lot of women watching will be coaches, entrepreneurs, and we have this divine, spiritual, beautiful, flowing creativeness, and we're like, no, we don't want structures, we don't want, you know, the strategy, we don't want that. But then you're just like falling out, that it's like, actually there does need to be some structure, there does need to be some boundaries to hold together the yumminess of the created divine flow, that then you get to serve that forward.
And then take those visuals and add yourself on a boat, right? So if you're in a boat and you're just in the feminine energy, there's no direction, there's no point, there's no destination that you're going to, right? If you're in the masculine and you're in the banks and you're in, you know, the dry desert, the dry dirt, and you're sitting in a boat, you're not going anywhere, you're not creating anything, you're just in the same spot on the hamster wheel, hoping to get somewhere.
Yeah.
But when you bring them together, right, there is a destination, there is a direction, there is a point of movement.
I love that, because I think so many people think that they just want to go and sit on the boat out on the ocean and you just go, actually the view looks very similar, we got some sky, we got some water, and I'm on my own on a boat. Like, yeah, it seems like the dream, but you give that a little while, that just gets where am I going? Where is everywhere? Where's, you know, but when you put the two together, like this, I've never heard it in that way. And it just, you're just like, duh, like the light bulb's going off. It just makes it so simple. And it's like, I don't know, it's just a little check for me that's just going, okay, let's bring that little bit of masculinity back in. You know, we've gone so far. Well, me personally went masculine into the feminine. I am bringing back the two now, but now there's a reason why we bring the two in, because you've oh my god, I'm just being mind blown. The light bulbs are just going like so I'll just be like really open and vulnerable. Like with my business, it's been very divine feminine. I've tried to learn the structures and the strategies, but it was too heavy for me to cope. There wasn't enough flow for me to move in and be creative myself. So I ditched all of that, and then I'm in this beautiful flow, but actually not overly getting where I want to be. It's great, and there were some people that joined me, and you know, that kind of stuff. But now, you know, pulling those two together. So yeah, I really, if there's somebody in business that's been like, I've tried all the things, I've tried all the structure, I've tried their strategy, it didn't work for me, so now I'm just going to be in this beautiful flow that feels great, because there's no pressure or tension, or you know, it's all divinely flowing, but then you're just floating. You're not flowing, you're floating.
Of it is like this transaction also, you know, brings in the universe. It brings in source energy. It brings in our, you know, cosmic blueprint. And so we don't need to, like, it's not about flip-flopping back and forth, right? It's not about being in one and then being in the other, right? It is about the union of both energies coexisting harmoniously at the same time. Even in our personal relationships with our partners, there's going to be a balance of masculine and feminine energies in a harmonious, balanced relationship. When you're fighting at odds, right? Like, so when my marriage was not doing very well, both of us were actually very much in a wounded masculine energy.
Mm-hmm.
And then when I leaned more into my feminine aspect, it was still in a wounded state, because I was doing it as a fulfillment. I was doing it as something, you know, to receive validation, to receive confirmation. And that actually like mirrored it to my husband, who also got into a wounded feminine state. And then somebody came in, right, to be that structure for him. And it was easily captivated because he was coming from a wounded state.
Yeah.
Right? But the universe co-creates with us. So when you're taking the time, wherever your resistance is, the masculine energy or the feminine energy, right? And you haven't quite found that balance, you haven't quite found that union, you know, you're trying out the different things to figure out what's working for you, working with the coaches to, again, go a little bit deeper and to unlock, you know, the hidden truths of, you know, of who you really are and where you really shine. You're embodying your human design, your gene keys, your energetics, all of the good stuff. I know, like, I go deep into all of that with like my clients and everything like that.
Yeah.
But we naturally have one energy that we feel more comfortable in. And while we need to come to that state of, you know, balance within ourselves, whatever you are resisting in, knowing that the world is not going to fall apart, right? Things are not going to stop if you lean back further. If you're not out saving everybody, they're going to be fine. Okay. In your business, if you take a break, if you take a vacation, you're going to be fine, because the universe is being the polar opposite of your energy. So when you'll hear it time and time and time again in businesses, I was doing all of the things, I was hustling, I was putting all of the things out, I was building it, because if you build it, they're going to come. And then when I stopped and when I just kind of started to show up as myself, people showed up in my inbox. People started buying. because you had gone past that point of divine masculine back into a wounded masculine. And we do not become an energetic match. We are not magnetic when we are,
Wounded.
acting from a state of woundedness.
Yeah.
But then when you lean back and you get to be in the feminine, right? The universe shows up in their divine masculine and guides the people. Come here, come here, come here.
Yeah.
And you trust that whatever you built in your masculine, whatever foundational stones you laid are there and they're waiting for them. The universe is walking them through.
Yes. 100%.
And you get to receive them on the other end.
And then that's when it's like magic, when it's like Christmas Day. I had something in my inbox today about one-on-one. I'm like, where did that even come from? That was not even in my offer. Like, where does that even come from? Because I'm in this lovely state that I'm in right now. And this is, how it took me 4 years to make 15,000, and last year within 2 hours I made 11k. In 6 hours I made 28k, something like that. And people were like, how are you doing? Well, how did you do? Even a coach that I was working with at the time said, tell me, what did you do? And I went, I didn't do anything. But okay, tell me what you didn't do. And I went, well, everything. I've just been on holiday. I've just been connecting to myself. Like, so there is no 5 steps too. Like, Claire, how did you do that? What are the steps? How were you feeling? What were you visualizing? I just was. I was just myself. I was just in a beautiful energy. Like, so I can completely.
Yeah, exactly.
Melonie, this has been fantastic. I don't want to take up too much more of your time, but please could you let anybody who's watching, this is actually going out onto my YouTube channel, the Soul Truth Conversation Show, so come and join us over there as well. We're going to put up all your links for people to come and find us, but anybody listening here now, please tell us, where can they find you, and do you have anything out right now where people can come and join in your spaces?
So I always like to invite people into my private community, which is called the Soul Filled Sisterhood. It's just a free community space where I like to show up and do all of the things that are Melonie. So thought-provoking content, deep soul conversation, trips down the rabbit hole, readings, and all of that fun stuff. It's here on Facebook, Soul Filled Sisterhood. Offerings right now, I actually do have a couple specials on for the month of March. I am currently offering a quick glimpse of 6 weeks in one-on-one container. Generally, I only offer 6 month. Did I say 6 month? I meant 6 week, but 6 month and 12-month containers because of the depth of, going into limiting beliefs and conditionings over that have happened over the span of a lifetime. I don't really offer short containers, but for this month I am offering 6 weeks coaching, really super 30-minute sessions every single week, 5:55. Jump into Voxer, add that on for all the in between, for a full 6-week experience of all things that are Melonie energy and deep dive into your truth. That's 11/11. And then I am offering these new sessions, integrated sessions, up-leveled sessions that are called galactivation sessions. And this is really about diving deep into your Akashic records and connecting and reawakening the star seed energy. So if you've ever had that feeling of not being from here, of not belonging, of knowing that there is, this deep longing for more within you, and you don't really know why or where it comes from, because looking around you, your life is good. Your life is great. You feel you have purpose, you have direction, but there's still something that lingers and craves and yearns for a place of home. This is what these 60-minute galactivation sessions are really all about. Just remembering, awakening your truth, collecting to, the light language, the starseed and energy, and energizing yourself on a cosmic level. and those are currently on offer for $222.
That. So Melanie's got so much to offer you all, and Melonie, this has been amazing. I've absolutely loved it. It will be going up onto the YouTube channel shortly. Thank you for everybody who's been watching us live, and yes, if you're on the replay, come back, say hi to us. Go over, find Melonie, go and catch it in the YouTube channel. And yes, this is my birthday month. I do have something that's coming out very, very soon, so I'm excited to put that out there. This has been incredible. Thank you, Melonie. I will speak on our calls, and most grateful day, open for all the miracles and all the fun unknown stuff that's about to come into you for today, and everybody else who's watching. Thank you so much, everybody. I'll speak to you soon. Take care. Bye.